This is a triangle where you have energy metering, you have energy settlement, which I'm going to talk a little bit about here, and then you also have energy efficiency. Together, it's lowering energy cost. Someone said I should use this one. Good. Can you hear me now? Yeah. ERA started about 12 years ago and has been handling the energy settlement part of this, but I've also been trying to be the base of knowledge for energy metering, energy settlement, and also the energy efficiency. We have, if this works,
the other box.
Okay. Let's go back. Perfect. We've been also hosting the annual forum for this topic, and we have an annual forum which next year is going to be in Rome. And if you see a guy in green there, I think you recognize him. He's a good friend of mine. We've been traveling around 10 years with some of the others here in the room as well, trying to write all the standards, all the ERA TSIs, also being in or writing what is in the directives when it comes to this. We also are working with UIC. The old UIC leaflet 930 we were in on, and I'm now presently the leader of the revision of that as well. All trying to facilitate energy savings for the railways. What's ended up with is that there are now laws and directives in place for most of the parties and the parts that are involved. The first thing that was approached was the metering. Done a lot with Select, it's been presented here before, very well. We also had spin-offs like the DAS systems that I picked up and have their own forum for this, which we stay a little bit out of. But just a short kind of thing about safety and security on this. We are on the downstream side in what we are handling. We're not on board the train. We're not communicating with the train, but we are the receiver of data, commercial data to be used for billing. And one of the challenges there is that this is not only for the railways and DG Move, it's also for DG Energy and the energy laws and all the requirements and rules and regulations that is there. It's also actually for DG Enterprise and Industry, because this is commerce. Now, getting these three to cooperate and get aligned and agree on what to do with this subject has been somewhat of a challenge, but I think we have made it. And I think you recognize the foil, General, don't you? So we're talking about only security in our world, not safety. It was also mentioned here there are three aspects of security. It's confidentiality, it's integrity, and availability. Now, the integrity part has been touched a lot. We're very afraid of this boogeyman that can log into our systems and do some changes, right? It's been presented a lot here. Also, the confidentiality is touched upon, that no one should see your data and you should see no one else's data, because these are commercial data and it might be a commercial activity, something you don't want to give to your competitor. However, and it has not been touched enough about, is the availability. If you put up Chinese walls all over the place, suddenly the whole reason for having information, the usability and availability of it, get lost in part of this. And then there's no point in having information. In the UIC map of the actors and functions that is in this one has already been presented well, and it's also in the 5463 standard of Senelec, in the TSI lock-in pass for ERA. It's also referred to in the DG Moves directives on this. So it's locked in. Well, that's the functions. The people above it, responsible for it, is not locked in on what they need to do. Then you have the lower part here, which is a little bit ERA's domain of the TSIs of tough, of the communication what should be communicated and how. But not necessarily when. And do you have to communicate it? On the third part here is what UIC is now approaching, because if you look at the part here, the grey part, that's the energy world. It's already standardized. We're just a kind of subcontractor going into that world, and we have nothing to say about it. We just have to adopt whatever they do. If you look at the billing system, invoicing systems here, that's SAP and Aggresso, whatever they're called. It's a world handled by any kind of company. It's not our world to decide how to do this. It's already standardized. It's already been taken care of. The problem is in the middle here. I can mention this because if you go down to the metering systems here, we have had metering systems built up in the last 10 years. Now, if you don't get the metering data to the market, then information is lost and has no value, right? The problem here is that you may have a system here from the old systems before the 2012 norm. You may even have systems from the 2012 norm, but the contracts between the parties that is operating this and the one who's going to receive it may not have any SLA at all, saying that, yes, what if shit happens, what if it's not delivered, when does it have to be delivered, and so on. What's the penalty if you don't deliver, and so on. So it's a little bit, yes, I'll give you a meter. Here you go. And then that's it. Downstream, this is causing a lot of problems. This is what UIC is now approaching. Who is responsible for doing what? Making sure that availability of data there is actually secure, not only by having a device that you mount in some way, but actually the purpose of why you choose to have a device on board and actually install it and make it work, that is fulfilled. On the settlement side, it's the same thing really. But on this side, we have the situation that most of these parties surrounding this is already professional. Except this part, which I already touched upon. But again, one of the big challenges we have now is not getting this part to work. For the new meters, for the laws, regulation, key size and everything is in place. But it's this part. And it's not for the case of not standardizing how the messages should work. That's also being done by TSIs. The top tough is also being done in UIC. But it's for the situation that 10 years ago, I remember there was a UIC representative that said very strongly, you shall not have the data on where our trains are running. And he was forcing this through in a long way. I think it was hours and hours of discussions until a British colleague just raised his voice. He was sitting there for a long time and he got a little bit fed up with this and just said the beautiful words, well, we do have your timetables. So they know, everyone knows where these trains are running. But the problem is, to exchange these data, I don't want to give away that because I regard it as competitive information. And this is the availability of data that's causing problems. So, in whatever kind of discussions you have in the future, please don't forget about the third part here, which very often gets used in this. This part. Without this part, the rest has no value, no benefit, no nothing. If you want to know more about us, I'm not going to bother you about that. You can find a lot of information here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.